Okay, here's a man who has left a comment below one of my videos, and the first 3 words are yes, yes, yes. Not just yes, 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 but all in capital letters with 3 exclamation points at the end. He says, everything you say is 100% true. Well, I'm not so sure about that. But anyway, he says, I've been denying a blood sugar problem for years until my A1C reached 7. My current doctor knew I was averse to starting meds, so she asked me to check my blood sugar 4 times per day. I like that doctor. Sometimes people write things and say things that their doctor has told them, and I'm like, really? But I like this doctor. She says, well, if you're not going to take meds, at least check your blood sugar 4 times a day, and let's see what's going on, and I want you to see what's going on. So he says, for some reason, that was the push that I needed. I even designed and printed up some weekly sheets so I can record all of my glucose readings and every bite of food I ingest. So this guy's taking it seriously. He's recording all his meals. He's recording all his glucose numbers. He says, I track my hours even of non-eating. So he's recording himself and testing himself even at times where he's not been eating. I've lost 30 pounds. Wow. And when I get my A1C rechecked on October the 1st, the doctor's confident I will already be back in a good range. I am a believer. So what was it that turned everything around? It was his doctor that helped him get started in the right direction. And thank God for wise doctors. He's like, Doc, I just don't want to take meds. She's like, fine, you're not going to take any meds. You're going to test yourself, and you're going to find out what's going on with your glucose. And she said 4 times a day. Looks to me like he went well beyond that. He started testing. He started creating spreadsheets and writing down numbers and writing down meals and basically taking this whole business seriously, which is smart, smart, smart. He says, yes, yes, yes. I say smart, smart, smart. And he says, by the testing that I'm doing, my doctor says I should be in a good range with my next A1C. I am a believer. Well, absolutely. You know, they're coming out or talking about coming out with watches you can wear that will give you glucose readings. And whenever some new product like that comes out, it's probably not going to be all that accurate at the first, but they'll refine it and make it better. And eventually, wouldn't it be wonderful if they came out with a watch you can just put on? You don't have to, stick it into your arm the way that we do with the CGMs. And so it would be very simple. And then B, it would be very cheap. And let's say you could get it $10. And then C, most of the CGMs these days will record your glucose. They'll have a sensor that will record your glucose for about 14 days. And then that's it. You pull that baby off and you have to put another one on. And they are not cheap. So that's one of the reasons I don't do it more often. But wouldn't it be wonderful if the day came, and I think it will eventually, I may not live to see it, but the day came when you could just strap on a watch and wear it, and you just take a look at your watch. I wonder what my blood sugar is. Oh, okay, it's 134. That's a little bit high. That would be great. And if that happened, and if people started wearing them, if they got cheap enough, and the word got out enough that this is the best way to stave off strokes, heart attacks, all kinds of other issues, obviously high glucose, and everybody started wearing them, not just the people who've been told they're diabetic, but just ordinary people. And they eat a couple of donuts, and then they look at their little CGM watch that they've been wearing that cost them $10 or $12, and it says 215, and they realize that's way out of range, that's very dangerous, and it's going to change their eating habits. And we would be almost rid of diabetes, except for some of the most stubborn people, in a very short time, if everybody had to wear watches that would tell them their glucose. The thing of it is, you can tell, at least I can, when my glucose drops too low. Most people can. You get jittery, you get nervous, you feel a little faint. There's various symptoms that tell you. And the other day when I took a high-powered herbal supplement, and it wasn't medication, it was just an herbal supplement, but it was powerful, and it brought my glucose too low, and I could feel it. I could tell it, and I had to test myself, and sure enough. But apart from that, if your glucose is either normal or on the high side, a lot of times you you can't tell it. You can tell lows. You can't so easily tell highs. I've had some people say, yeah, I can tell it when it goes too high. And I've had maybe a couple times, but most of the time I can't tell it. But there is one way I can tell it, and that is through this little fella right here. I call him Mike the Meter. Sometimes people want to write in and say, who is Mike? What brand is Mike? Well, Mike can be any brand. It doesn't matter what the brand, although you want to try to get one accurate. And one of the best ways you can do to get an accurate meter is as accurate as is possible. None of them are going to be perfectly accurate. But one of the simplest ways, just Google most accurate glucose meters, and you should get a pretty good list. Now, I've been liking the Freestyle. There's two type of Freestyle meters that I like. One is the one I use all the time, which is the Precision Neo. That's this one. And I like it because, A, it seems to be pretty accurate, and it's always consistent within itself. It may be a little off from what the doctor says, but I'm not going to test and get a 100 and then test the same finger 2 minutes later and get a 140. Within itself, it's accurate. Anyway, the Freestyle Precision Neo, and then there's the Freestyle Light, Freedom Light, I think they call it, Freestyle Freedom Light, which is probably even more accurate, but the strips are a lot more expensive, so I go for the one that's got the cheaper strips. Right now, I don't know what my glucose is. I know I just had bulletproof coffee, and I'll tell you what time I'm recording this. It's about 4 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon. I had soup and fufu with Benedicta, and the fufu is the lower-carb fufu we've discovered in the last 6 months or so, and I'm just loving it. It's made out of a combination of coconut flour and ground flax meal, or flaxseed ground up, and then a little psyllium husk thrown in to kind of make it bind together pretty well. And Benedicta a lot of times will like to throw in some almond flour as well. So, I mean, low-carb ingredients, I can eat bigger portions. When she used to make it out of Quaker oats, I would still eat it with her because I just wanted to identify with her own food that she loves and her culture, and it's pleasant, but mostly I did it for her. But I didn't eat very big portions at all. I can eat bigger portions now using the flaxseed and the coconut flour and a little bit of psyllium husk, and then sometimes she'll throw in the almond flour. So anyway, right now, I don't know. I don't feel anything. I feel fine. So I know it's very likely my glucose is not too low. Could it be too high? Well, I don't know, but I'll soon find out. I will just give myself a little stab and give it a check and see what we've got. It's been about maybe 2 hours since I ate. Well, 88, so I'm pretty happy with that. But you see, before I tested myself, I didn't know where I was. I couldn't tell by feeling. I don't have some kind of magical power that I can look into myself and say, oh, okay, you got this. And I'm not wearing a CGM. So my only option is Mike the Meter. So I went from before I tested myself right here on camera to not knowing where I stood, and I would have guessed higher than that. I would have guessed, I don't know, 100, 110. But it turned out better. But I went from a place of darkness and ignorance, which means I didn't know. I had no clue. Well, I did have some clue because I've eaten this meal before and tested myself, but I didn't really know. And now I know. Mike has told me. So we're going from no knowledge to knowledge, from darkness to light. I've got light on the issue of what's going on in my body. I can't look at myself. I can't always tell by feeling, but Mike can sure tell me. And so that's kind of the name of the game. That's where victory is won and lost. And if you want to know the secret to why this channel helps so many people beat diabetes, I believe one of the biggest reasons, one of the bigger reasons is I just keep emphasizing test your post-meal glucose, test yourself frequently, find out what's going on. That's what this guy's doctor said. He's like, Doc, no, I am not going to take those meds. He said, fine, start testing yourself more. He did. And bam, the race was on. The victory was basically won at that point. He says, I am a believer. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. That can happen to you, my friend. If this guy can do it, so can you. Benedict and I would like to invite you to study the Bible with us through our podcast. Join us in our home as we do our morning Bible studies. With a podcast, there's nothing to see. You just listen. And that means you can enjoy our Bible study while you drive in your car, go for a walk, or work out at the gym. Our podcast is called Discover the Word with Den and Ben, and you can find it in most platforms where you get your podcasts. And if you know nothing at all about podcasts and how they work, there's a link in the description that will help get you started.